Good evening, everyone. It is 7:07. This is Monday, September 9th, 2024, the regular meeting of the Glendora Unified School District Board of Education. We have emerged from closed session and there is no reportable action, so I would like to start tonight's meeting with a roll call.
Board Member Reuter.
Present.
Board Member Merkley. Board Vice President Garcia.
Present.
President Clifford.
Present.
Please note that Board Clerk Lopez is absent.
Please stand up, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda, please?
So moved. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? There is not, so the agenda passes. That moves us to item 3.6, which is, as in the beginning of every school year, it is the oath of office for the student board members for Glendora High School and for Whitcomb High School. So if you both could go to the dais very quickly and introduce yourself to the community one at a time.
I'm Liliana Lusk from Glendora High School.
I'm Diego Garcia from Whitcomb High School.
Very nice to meet both of you. So I'm going to say this and you're going to repeat after me, okay? Just like you just did, we're going to start over. So you're going to say I and then state your name.
I, Liliana Lusk,
I, Diego Garcia,
Now everything else will be together. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will
that I will
bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Now, from what I understand, Lily, you're up first tonight. And then Diego, you'll be up at the next meeting. Is that correct? Diego, you're up at the next meeting, correct? Yes. So we'll be hearing from Lily tonight. Thank you so much and welcome to the Board of Education meeting. Lucky you.
Glad to have you.
Yes, we are. The next item is item 3.7, which is public comment. Speakers may address the Board of Education. If you do, you fill out one of these little cards. I happen to have one of them for Michael Barron, so I will open up the public comment for Mr. Barron. If anyone else wants to speak, fill out a card. Otherwise, I will close it after Mr. Barron's speech.
Good evening, board and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I just have two requests, and I will admit that maybe these aren't possible, but if they are, great. It'll help in communication. One is, in the agendas, when there are abbreviations that you know very well, but the public has no clue what they are, it would be helpful if in parentheses you wrote what those things stood for, because then we can Google them and find out what it's about. So that would be one request. Second request is, at times, the consent agenda has a lot of items in it. And I know you all have reviewed it and the staff's reviewed it, but it would be helpful if it would be possible to sum up the total amount of dollars that are being committed when you approve the consent agenda quickly. So is the consent agenda allocating $2,000 or $100,000? If I kind of dig through the 30 to 40 page detailed agenda, I can probably figure that out. But is inputting the dollar amounts. And it doesn't seem to me that it would be that hard to add those up and just kind of, in the name of transparency and visibility. And, maybe I'd be the only one that would pay attention to that information, but those are my two requests. So thank you for considering them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. I'll turn your questions over to the board clerk. Any other comments? All right, we will close public comment and move on to item 4.1, which is our first student report. You have 30 seconds.
I'm going to start off with Cullen Elementary. Cullen Condors have gotten off to a great start for the 2024-2025 school year. The campus had a number of improvements over the summer with the addition of 6 new trees, 8 fresh basketball hoops, and a fresh new artwork on 3 of our handball courts. Our PTA has hit the ground running with membership kickoff, an online spiritware store, and our 14th annual Move-a-thon fundraiser. Teachers have all settled into their classrooms, and students are all learning new routines and making new friends. Our intervention classes have begun providing services, and we are excited to have all aid positions filled in order to support more students. The STEAM lab is being put to excellent use with the 4th and 5th graders using it for STEAM lessons, and the 1st through 3rd graders students using it for art lessons. Music students have selected their preferred class and received their instruments this week. For our 4th grade students, this will be their first year having music, and they're all super excited. We are looking forward to a wonderful year filled with learning and growing. For Stanton Elementary, we are all geared up and ready to fly with Eagle Time. Our staff has completed assessing our students, and the Eagle Time committee has disaggregated the data. They have strategically placed our students into instructional groups based on their ELA needs. Our librarian, Mrs. Cushman, put together a luau celebration with the Kona ice truck for our students who read over the summer and turned in their summer reading challenge log. We had 80 students this year, which is the highest we ever had. Chess Club begins soon in addition of the world language classes. Our students are looking forward to those after-school opportunities. Picture Day is right around the corner in addition to Wellness Week. Lots of great things are happening at Stanton, and we are super excited. For Sutherland, we had a great transition back into the school year. We have already checked off a few events already this year, including Back to School Night, Picture Day, and Family Movie Night. PTA is working hard to attain 100% membership. Thank you to the PTA board, our parent volunteers, and room reps for their commitment to our students, and school community. We are grateful for their partnership. As we enter the month of September, students will be focusing on the character trait of respect. Teachers are using resources and lessons from our Character Strong curriculum to teach students important skills and strategies. Next week, we look forward to the Wellness Week and emphasizing health and well-being. Students will be voting for a student in each class who is an exceptional model of kindness. These students will be entered into a raffle to win a basket provided by our PTA. Sandberg Middle School, from our ASB leaders, we are thrilled to have filled all of our ASB positions and excited to see how these amazing students will lead. One of the essential responsibilities carried out by our student leaders is to welcome new students to our campus and provide a personal tour of our facilities. The feedback we are receiving from the students and their families is super positive. Congratulations to Mrs. Rachel Bizzato for being awarded the Sprouts Garden Grant. These funds will be used to beautify our Spartan garden and promote composting, and recycling on our campus. Rachel received the check in recognition at Sprouts in Glendora on Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. It's hard to believe that we are already coming up on progress report season. Counselors are meeting with students at risk of receiving an F or a D to develop action plans for getting them back on track. Math tutorials begin next week. Our math teachers have done an amazing job collaborating around ways to improve tutorials for supporting students with greater success in their core math classes and promoting increased student participation. Help is available for any student struggling with math skills and concepts. For Glendora High School, Tartans had an exciting start to the 2024-2025 school year as we started off strong with our Get On Board first day of school, first assembly, and welcome back dance. We plan to keep this same energy throughout the school year while also providing proper support for all of our students. We are excited to have opened our Wellness Center this past week and assist our students needing support and encouragement. Our counselor team as well as the NAMI Club and ASB will be working together to focus on Wellness Week that kicked off today. For the past 2 weeks, students were encouraged to start a club. For those who choose to do so, are invited to make a booth at our 2-day club rush, which will be later this month, to invite peers to join in areas of interest. The drama program has auditions for their upcoming performance of The Addams Family. We cannot wait to see this musical in November. As the voter registration weeks approach, both 11th and 12th grade students will be taught the importance of voting in the United States through learning the growth of voting rights in their history courses. 11th and 12th grade students will also be shown how to register or pre-register to vote. Students who participate in this will be given a great I Register to Vote sticker. Our fall athletic teams are finishing preseason and ready to kick off their seasons. As always, Tartans appreciate fans who come out to support. We are proud of our first-year flag football team. Starting a brand new sport is not easy. Our ASB students have started planning the 2024 homecoming assembly, parade, and football game and dance. This is only the beginning of a great year for the Tartans.
Lily, good job.
Thank you.
Now you see what we have to do next week, young man. You ready for that? All righty, thank you very much. Next item is 4.2, comments from the Board of Education, starting with my left. Trustee Reuter.
Thank you very much. Lily mentioned in her comments that this week, today, kicked off Wellness Week here in Glendora Unified School District. I think it is nationally known as Suicide Prevention Week, but as a K-12 district, it feels a little more appropriate for it to be wellness, especially as we talk to about our elementary and younger students that way. And I just want to give a shout out to all the efforts that are going not only into this week, but our the wellness services that our district provides on a whole. For starters, I really want to say thanks so much to the PTAs that have been doing a lot, getting cookies and lemonade and different activities, all sorts of supports at all the different sites. I want to thank our counselors and our student support specialists and our staff for all the different fun activities that they're trying to do with all of the students this week to, I think, make them really feel like they belong and they know where they can go if they need any sort of resources. I think our district does really very well with our mental health team. After COVID, we really came out with the wellness rooms that are at most of the sites. 8 student support specialists at the individual sites. We operate under a multi-tiered system of support, and that's an academic and a social emotional support system. And so there are 3 different tiers inside that system of support that help us triage and address students' needs and meet the needs of our students should they have any mental health issues appropriately. We have a really awesome program that was put together where we have either 8 or 9 interns that are marriage family therapist students at APU that are supervised by 3 of our student support specialists that have their MFTs. So it's a mentor-teacher sort of relationship there where they're being directly supervised by somebody that already has that degree. And so it's a system where they come in and they may be expressing some concern about something, and the teacher might refer them to a counselor that might refer them to the student support specialist that might refer them to one of our marriage, all the way up to outside services that are available to our students and their families should the need be there. And so I just want to really commend our staff from the teachers all the way up through our mental health professionals for the work that they do and the structure that they have put in place to support all of our students. I encourage families to take a look. I know that is it tomorrow night at Sellers or is it Wednesday night at Sellers? There's a Wednesday night at Sellers, a family event for Wellness Week, and all the different activities. Students, take a look at the schedule and get involved with the different activities that are at your schools this week. It really will help you, form a sense of belonging to your school and with your friends and with the teachers and staff that want to be there. I had a lot of fun this morning, and I know probably everybody's going to talk about this at the aviation room ribbon cutting at Glendora High School. And just talking to the students in that class, there were 3 maybe of the second year pathway students that were in that class, and their passion for that class and what they're doing and was super impressive. maybe Mr. Clifford knows the association that Mrs. Deere has gotten them involved in out at the Riverside Airport, where they're going out there and getting flying hours. EAAESAE, no? Okay, sorry, I should have taken a click, but these students are actually getting, the one young man that I talked to has been up and has flown in a plane already. And, and they were teaching me how to do it with all the instruments, and, it is a super impressive program. So, I recommend, I don't know if we'll have any sort of, community open. I don't know. It really is super cool. And I think it's something that Mrs. Deere and the entire administration over at the high school should be really proud about. So that's it for me today.
Thank you. Trustee Garcia?
Welcome, everyone here. I'll keep it short, but I did want to say that the aviation ribbon cutting was absolutely amazing and so much fun. So I'm so happy to see that program finally coming together and seeing all the students enrolled, and now the ones that are taking it for the second year, truly enjoying that process. So very excited to see that continue to evolve. First and foremost, welcome to the dais and to our little work that we do up here. I'm so excited to have 2 new students and looking forward to talking to you both, and want to encourage you to ask questions. Get involved as much as you can. You know, you're here for a reason. We want to hear your voice is so important to us. So if there's anything that you feel that we can support you with, you have all of our emails. Call us when we're up here. Please don't be shy. Okay, we're here to serve you. So thank you for being here. You mentioned PTA and all the work that they're doing with the Wellness Week. I want to put a shameless plug. If you haven't joined PTA, it starts $7 to $10 depending on your site. Those $7 or $10, they go to support a lot of these, the support that the parents provide for our schools. It's not a huge amount, and it goes a long way. So if you haven't signed up, you can sign up your mom, your dad, yourself as a student. All of that really, really does make a difference, and it has an impact on our campuses. So I encourage you to please, please, please reach out to your site PTA membership team and take care of that. I did see that the GEF has announced their fall festival. We were there last year and it was incredible. So I am looking forward to seeing what they have planned this year. I think the Mission 19, they're gonna have a video, an in-out truck, save the date, October 16th, out in the Bus Plaza in downtown Glendora. It's a great event. It's a family event. Bring your family, bring the kids. It truly is an opportunity for you to see all the good things that GEF, the Glendora Education Foundation, does to assist our district. So please support them. Please come out and have a good time. The Sprouts Garden Grant. We were lucky enough to be there, Sprouts, 9 o'clock in the morning, and get to see Mrs. Bizotto receive that grant. I'm very excited and so happy that she applied and that she got it, and I'm very excited to see what she does with it. As I was digging through the Sprouts Foundation and all the amazing support that they provide, my mom worked for Sprouts for many, many years. Sprouts is near and dear to my heart, and I shop there every day probably. So please support Sprouts because they're supporting us. So thank you so much, and I think that's all I have.
Well, everybody said everything I was going to say, almost. Except I do have to say, PTA, if you sign up for PTA, it doesn't mean you have to actually work. You don't have to attend the meetings, because PTA is the biggest advocate for children, and so, in the country. So it just, your money goes to advocate for that. But you can go to the meetings and you can get involved because they really do impact our children's lives. I can't remember how much money that PTA donates, but each site is different. But a lot of the programs we have, we would not if we didn't have a very robust PTA. And even our Whitcomb, our alternative high school, has a good PTSA because Mrs. Shibata, how many other alternative high schools do you know that have a PTSA? Zero. Yeah, and we've got Jan Holmes on there's been on there probably for 30 years, seriously. Yeah, I bet, at least. The aviation ribbon cutting was amazing. I just can't talk about that enough. I didn't get into the big box that Gary drives that, actually moves. Because it was enough to sit at one, and I'm pretty sure the girl Isla was afraid I was going to crash. She kept grabbing the yoke. But I was getting a little nauseated just looking at, trying to get. It was, but what a great opportunity for our kids. I just think that is the coolest thing. Our classes are full. Is there a waiting list probably? Anyway, it's amazing. I went back, I was at the wellness room. They opened it up at the high school today. Just started it. They had lemonade and cookies and stuff. And I think each site has a basket that PTA provided that the kids get. Yeah. Yeah, so another PTA thing, but it's going to be fun for the kids to go in there. And at the high school, they were playing this loud music, and I don't know if they could smell the cookies, but it was like they just started coming, and it was
I went back for lunch, and it was like, I felt we served all 2,000 kids. I'm sure we did not, but that's what it felt like when we were slinging the lemonade.
Yeah.
That music turned on, and they were just, if you
Well,
build it,
and
they will come.
I was there at nutrition.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And it was almost like a magnet.
Yeah.
They were coming. They kept coming. And a few went inside. So at least now they know where the wellness room is because it's kind of back off the basketball courses. So anyway, I think that's all I have. It's good to be back in school because I'm not in school. So it'll be better when the heat stops.
Thank you. I have nothing tonight on that line. I do want to let all of our parents know that I don't have to tell you, there's 3 major fires burning in our area right now. The bridge fire, the line fire, and the telegraph fire, all of which are affecting Glendora's air quality, besides the massive heat wave we're having. So I just want you to know that our sites and our locations and all the school nurses and everyone who's an administrator are monitoring the air, our children's activities, all the sporting events, and you'll be kept up to speed with your parent notification. So we're doing the right thing and making sure that we don't have control of the air quality, we don't have control of what the first responders are doing, but we do have control of how we communicate with y'all. So we're doing that, and I appreciate the work that the district is doing there. And we've even canceled some sporting events that have happened in late afternoon. The early morning ones are still going, and I noticed this weekend we had our city leagues, and they all went up until about 10 o'clock, and then in the afternoon they were canceled because of the heat. But we're keeping an eye on the kiddos for you on that arena, and I thought that was important to mention. And I'll turn it over to you, Dr. DeGrazia.
Excellent point. Thank you, Mr. Clifford, President, Board Trustees. Welcome, Lily. Welcome to Diego. We love to hear your thoughts throughout the year, and we look forward to them. Lily, I know you're busy on at Glendora High School. You're the ASB president, yes? And you are, no, what's your position?
I am currently the Commissioner of Assemblies. I'm a junior at Glendora High School.
That's a big task, too.
Yes.
That's a big task, too. You also play athletics. You're on the field hockey team, is that
I'm
true?
on field hockey and softball.
And softball as well. Diego, I know Wickham High School is starting up athletics too, so we'll probably see you out in fields and courts there soon. They are starting back their athletics for the first time since pre-COVID, so we look forward to seeing them in action. Congratulations to Mrs. Bizzotto, as was remarked earlier. The grant that she received from Sprouts, from the Glendora store this weekend, is in the amount of $9,000. That's a significant amount of money to enhance the already thriving Spartan Garden and to add even more. Also, congratulations goes out to Glendora High School math teacher and boys varsity basketball coach Gordon Hamlow. He's been selected as a CIF Champion of Character. Yeah, and that is a big, big honor. He will be recognized in an event by CIF in the next couple of weeks, and we'll certainly have him at a future board meeting to recognize him here. Today at Glendora Coordinating Council, they recognize 2 people. A senior, Glendora High School senior, Isabella Garcia. She was this month's Youth Award winner in recognition for all of the many things she does in the community. In addition, she got recognized alongside someone so famous. He's known by 2 words, Donut Man. And so Mr. Jim Nakano was recognized for the Humanitarian Award for all his work with the community over the years and doing the good work that Donut Man continues to do. You heard about the aviation room. Our STEAM labs are opened up at each of our elementary schools as well. We will have the grand opening for them and the ribbon cutting for one specific, and that is the La Fetra STEAM lab, and that will be on Tuesday, October 8th at 5:30. Our collaboration and coordination with the Glendora Police Department also continues. We wanted to thank them for their work in securing quickly a new school resource officer. His name is Officer Argueta. He will be replacing Officer SRO Goings, who is becoming a full-time, bless you, full-time Glendora police officer. She's going still will be involved with the community, certainly, but Officer Argueta will be taking her spot as of this week, and we will have 2 full-time officers assisting. Tomorrow, we also will hold our first quarterly Glendora Police Department and Glendora Unified School District articulation meeting of the new school year, so it's one of 4 that we will have throughout the year. You've heard about Wellness Week is this week. Special Parent Night on Wednesday, September 11th at 5:30 in the Sellers Cafeteria. And Wellness Week also provides us for a reminder for all of us that wellness is every day, every week, and not just this week. Supporting the physical, mental, social, emotional wellness of every student is a focus that we have each and every day. Next week, the college fair will take place at Glendora High School. That is not just for high school students, as we know. That's for elementary students to start thinking about, certainly middle school and up. And all are welcome. Parents, a wonderful speaker at 5:30 to 6:30 in the event center. And then the college fair, I think 60-plus colleges, universities, local law enforcement agencies, military branches, all represented there at Glendora High School on the 18th. 5:30 to 6:30 the speakers, 6:30 to 7:30 the fair in the gym. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the superintendent? Okay, we'll move on to our first staff presentation tonight, 5.1, the unaudited actual 2023-2024, presented by Jeanette Walzak, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and Araceli Medina, the Director of Fiscal Services. You have the floor.
Is it good?
What's that?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Clifford. Good evening, everyone. Esteemed board members, Dr. DeGracia, colleagues, and community members. So it's that time of year where we have to come forward and get an approval for our unaudited actuals. So for the school districts, we have to submit 3 financial report. The first one being the first interim, which covers the first 4 months of the school year, July through October, which is due December 15th. Then we have the second interim, which is the 7 months of the school year, and that's due March 15th. So right now we're covering the entire fiscal year, which we refer to as unaudited actuals, and that's from July 1st through June 30, and it's due in a few days, September 15th. The unaudited actuals becomes the foundation for our audit, independent audit, which is performed by independent auditors, which is currently going on right now. That report has to be submitted to the state by December 15th. Should I wait? Or what's going on? Okay. I don't know. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, sounds good. So the next, I'm sorry. So the next one, the unaudited actuals. So it's the district's annual financial report. We report on the results of operations for the fiscal year. So we have the revenues, the expenditures for the entire year. It also makes sure that the district meets the state requirements, and then we can do any adjustments that's needed for the upcoming budget. And this also becomes the basis for our audit using the state required format called SACS. Some of the reports included in the audited actuals from the SACS report, which is a big packet that we gave out, over 100 pages. We do the attendance report. We have the indirect cost calculation. Basically, the indirect cost calculation represents the overhead associated with running the district's program. So, for example, we have Title I, the different categorical programs that we can charge indirect costs to. We also have a lottery report, which is the restricted and unrestricted, and that's basically used for specific educational purposes. So that report ensures that we are doing what we're supposed to do. Then we have the special education cost data, which is the PCR or program cost report. Then we have the PCRF, which is the program cost report allocation factors. So that all goes into making sure that we are spending enough of the district's funds to our program, to the programs such as the special education. Next slide, the district fund. So we have the general fund, which is basically the main fund for the district. It runs our operating fund. And then we have other district funds which are required by the state. We have here at Glendora, we have 12 specialized funds. Some of them include, we have the Associated Student Body Funds, which is the fund for all our ASB. Then we have the Cafeteria Nutrition Fund, Fund 13, and that keeps track of all of the revenues and expenditures related to running that program. Then we have Fund 25, which is capital fund, and that's the developer fees. And then the other funds as listed in our report. Then we also have Fund 63. I just want to mention because it's one of our larger fund, and that houses our preschool and after-school program. And then now I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Medina to talk about the numbers and the detail of our unaudited actuals. Mrs. Medina?
Thank you, Mrs. Walczak. So I just wanted to point out on your handout, there is a slight typo. We corrected it on our presentation, but due to some not being able to present, it is the page that I'm going to go over, or the general fund section that I'm going to go over. It's just the unrestricted side. It's not unrestricted and restricted. It's just the unrestricted general fund. So the beginning fund balance for 23-24 was about $13.7 million. And then we received about $85.2 million in revenue. We had expenditures of about $66.2 million. And then we also have contributions that go towards our special ed and our routine restricted maintenance. And then we had a few transfers that went from unrestricted to restricted, which totaled about $16 million. So our net profit for 23-24 was about $2.9 million. So our ending fund balance at the end of our unaudited actuals is $16,710,250. So the 24-25 projected budget is the same budget we presented at adopted budget. We have not updated that. We will update that at first interim. So our projected budget for 24-25 is that ending fund balance for 23-24. So we're starting the year with $16.7 million. We're estimated to receive $78 million in revenue. Our expenditures are estimated to be $67.2 million. And then our contributions towards special education, routine restricted, is projected to be $15.8 million. And in this year, we currently do have a projection of deficit. So we are projecting a deficit of $4.9 million, leaving us with an ending fund balance of $11.7 million for the 24-25 school year. Then the next slide just itemizes what those general fund contributions are. So for special education, the district did contribute $11.2 million. Routine maintenance, we contributed about $3.5 million. So between the two, the general fund unrestricted is contributing about $14.7 million. The transfers that we made from unrestricted to restricted was about $1.2 million, and that was per CDE. We had to transfer some funds that were previously in unrestricted object codes to restricted ones, so it was just a requirement that we had to do this year. So the total contributions that you saw on that previous slide for 23-24 was about $16 million, and this outlines what that number is made up of.
Let me just interrupt you for 1 minute.
Sure.
If we could go back to the general fund page at the very beginning, the first, right there, and just give the audience a minute to look at that, because I know you were spitting all those numbers out.
Yes.
Let them get caught up just for, a few seconds here. And that's the 13.7 we started out with in 2023, and we ended with 16.7, and the 2024-25 proposed is starting with the 16.7 and ending with the 11.7, with the $4.9 million deficit being transferred out of our fund to cover that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now we can move on to the general, for what you were just talking about. The next slide.
So next slide, please. Oh, I have the clicker, sorry.
There you go. Now I think we'll be up to speed. The one before that. You both hit next slide. There you go. And you just talked about that.
Oh, yes.
Special education.
So special
I think
education, yes.
It's important to note that.
Yes,
The
so
amount of money.
here's a breakdown of the special education that I just discussed of the general fund contributions. So again, we contributed about $16 million, and so here are the different areas that our contributions were made up of.
Okay, now we can go up to speed with the next. Those were those slides that had money on them, not words. So
Yeah.
they were the important ones.
Okay, so the next slide just gives you, a line graph of our general fund revenues. So you can, and this compares it to our actuals for 22-23 compared to our unaudited actuals for 23-24. So you'll notice that our revenue did increase from 22-23 to 23-24, but that was due to the COLA. So the COLA this year was 8.22%. So that is just basically what you see there, is the increase in the COLA from the previous year. So in 22-23, we had about $75.9 million and then in LCFF funding, and now in 23-24, we had $79.5 million. And then we also have federal revenues. So that actually decreased from 22-23 to the 23-24 year, and that's due to some of our one-time funds being spent down. We had a lot of special ed money that we exhausted in 22-23 that were one-time funds. So you'll see that decrease there. And our state revenue, you'll see that it's a significant decrease, but again, I wanted to point out that we received a lot of our grant money last year for like the learning recovery was all received in the 22-23 year, as well as our arts, music, and materials discretionary grant was also received. So that's why you'll see that huge dip. But compared to what we received in the 22-23 year, our state revenue was about $9.9 million. And then our local revenue, it always fluctuates, between the interest that's earned, the different local revenues that we received. So that did increase from last year. We received about $11.2 million in local revenue. So this slide represents our general fund expenditures compared again to the 22-23 school year. So you'll see that there are significant increases in our salary and benefits, and that is due to the salary increase that we gave. We gave an 8.5% for the 23-24 school year, and as well as the classified received a wage steady classification increase. So the differences and increases that you see in the salaries and benefits are due to those items. And then our materials also increased from $2.9 million in the 22-23 year to $7.1 million, and that is due to textbook adoption. So that, you know, we realize that expense in this year, but we won't see that continue in the out years. Services increased a bit as well from the previous year. So our services were about $11.8 million, and that is also due to some of our special ed contracted services. They did increase from last year to this year, so that is the increase that you'll see there. They increased about $500,000 from the previous year. And then we also have our capital outlay. There isn't a lot there currently. It increased a little bit from the previous year. We had about $240,000 in capital outlay, and then in our other outgo, we had $956,000 for the 23-24 year. So these are all the expenditures that make up our general fund. We wanted to show you just the over the years what our special ed contributions have been, and so you can see here that in 2015-16 it was about $7.2 million, and then, you know, it increased the following year, and it had a, you know, a trajectory of, it just was continuing to increase. So with special education, we know that it's not fully funded, right? So a lot of times the general fund does have to contribute, as well as we're part of a SALPA, which is calculated off of the overall enrollment in ADA that are SALPA. So even though we may be experiencing increase in special ed students, we're not funded off of just our special ed students solely. So even though we have increasing costs, it doesn't always match the revenue we receive. So you can kind of see that in the following years. The COVID years, the funding we received helped us because we got one-time funding. So we kind of stopped that increase that we were seeing in the previous year. So you can see in the 19-20 year, it was $10.1 million, and then it decreased to $9.1 million, and then the following year in 21-22, it decreased even further to $8.9 million. But now that one-time funding is gone, so now it's going to continue to increase. So in 22-23, we now see that the previous year it was $9.3 million, and now 23-24, it's $11.2 million. Part of it is our increase in salaries and benefits that the salary schedule or the salary increase that we gave, as well as increase in contracted services, as well as a decrease in revenue. So all of those three things combined is what's causing this increase in our special ed contribution. Oh, I think I went too fast. There should be a number popping up in there, but it does not. It's supposed to be our contribution to the routine restricted maintenance. So we are required to deposit 3% of our total general fund expenditures into our routine restricted maintenance. So this goes towards, our facilities and repairing things at school sites. So we spent about $3.5 million in our routine restricted fund in the 23-24 school year. So next I'm going to go over all our other funds. So as Ms. Walczak presented previously, we do have 12 other funds that are restricted for a specific purpose. So I'm going to go over those funds in the next slide. So actually, sorry, let me just turn, that's a bit small for me, so let me just turn to my notes. So we have our student activity revenue fund. So these are our ASBs. So they had a beginning fund balance of $591,000. They brought in about $856,000 in revenue. They had about $950,000 in expenses, so it left them with an ending fund balance of $497,234. Then we have our Fund 11, which is our adult education fund. So they had a beginning fund balance of $731,000. They received revenues of $224,000, expenses of $227,000. So they have an ending fund balance of $729,611. Our Fund 14 is our deferred maintenance fund. So we do make a transfer into this fund from the general fund for routine restricted maintenance. So they had a beginning, not routine, for deferred maintenance. They had a beginning fund balance of $149,000. They had revenues of $413,000, expenditures of $26,000, and they had an ending fund balance of $536,280. Then we have our Fund 17, which we had a beginning fund balance of $6.8 million, and revenues of $367,000. So those revenues you see in Fund 17 are just the interest earned, and they Fund 17 had an ending fund balance of $7.2 million. Our capital facilities fund, which that is made up of our developer fees, had a beginning fund balance of $3.7 million, revenues of $682,000, expenses of $59,000, and they had an ending fund balance of about $4.3 million. And I did want to point out that we are going to be utilizing some of this money for the Glendora pool. So Fund 35 is our County School Facilities Fund. So that had a beginning fund balance of about $2.6 million, revenues of $247,000, expenses of $3,704, with an ending fund balance of about $2.8. And this fund will also be utilized towards the Glendora pool. The next fund is Fund 51. Our bond interest, this is a beginning balance of $4.7 million, revenues of $5.5, expenses of $5.1, and an ending fund balance of $5.1. Our Fund 53 is our tax override fund. So that had a beginning balance of $309,000, revenues of $28,000, and an ending fund balance of $338,639. The next fund is our Fund 63. This is our daycare and preschool. So they actually started with a slight negative. So at closing last year, they just had a slight negative. They had no 867 deficit and revenues of about $1.7 million. Expenses of $1.4 million, leaving them with a ending fund balance of $361,546. Fund 67 is our self-insurance fund, beginning balance of $1.1 million, revenues of $404,234, no expenditures in the 23-24 year, and a balance of $1.5 million. Then our last fund is the Fund 73, which is our Foundation Private Purpose Trust Fund, which had a beginning fund balance of $458,961, revenues of $42,758, expenditures of $14,500, with an ending fund balance of $487,219. Okay, I know that was a lot of numbers for you guys, but we just wanted to illustrate and give you the ending fund balances for all our district funds.
Before you go on,
Yes.
give us 13, the cafeteria.
Oh, sorry, I skipped that one, you're right. So Fund 13, our Cafeteria Special Revenue Fund, they had a beginning fund balance of $1.5 million, revenues of $4.2 million, expenditures of $3.7 million. So they had an ending fund balance of $2 million. So they're doing very, very well. Fund 13 is doing very well. It's always a great thing when it's not encroaching on the general fund.
I think it was 2000, either 18 or 19, where we ended $100,000 in the hole in the cafeteria fund, so this is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's part of, having those free universal meals and the different programs that we're running that are, generating that revenue and keeping that, in the green. Okay, so now I am going to turn it back over to Mrs. Walzak. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Medina. So what are our next steps? Our next step is to submit an audited actuals report to LACO by September 15th, and we ask our amazing Board of Trustees to approve our report. And then next, we're going to review and update our 2024-25 budget. And then currently, we're also running our independent audit, which is conducted by Kirsty White and Associates, and that is to be submitted to the state by December 15th as well. And then our next big report is the first interim report, which, as I mentioned earlier, that's due on December 15th as well. And that will cover the first 4 months of the school year. And then also, that's when we will take a look at, review our current budget and make the necessary adjustments at that time.
Thank you. Are there any questions of either presenter on item number 5.1? Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we understand how much the lottery is. Like what is our revenue from the lottery?
So the revenue from our lottery, there's two different pots. We have the unrestricted and the restricted. So we received approximately 1.6 million. I'm sorry. Oops, sorry about that. So for the lottery funds, there's two pots. We have the unrestricted and the restricted. So for the 23-24 school year, we receive approximately about 1.6 million in
Total.
Lottery total.
Okay, so that's really just a drop in the budget, in the bucket of our budget. Because some people I've run into, they say, well, what about the lottery money? Well, like $1 million sounds like a lot, but when you're talking our whole, $90 million, it's just like a couple of bucks. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a few questions. Can you explain to me, or to the community better said, what the deferred maintenance fund, what it can be used for?
Fund 14?
Yes.
So usually that is for like bigger type repairs that a school facility might need. It's something that's basically not considered routine, something like, replacing floors. It's just a bigger ticket item. So 400,000 doesn't cover a whole lot.
Okay. And then the Fund 17, is that the 6% that at some point the board passed, or is that different?
No, that's separate.
Okay.
So Fund 17 is, it's a separate aside from the 6%. But we are projected to move some of that money over in the out years. In 25-26, we're transferring over about $3.5 million. So we can continue to keep that 6% that we have as part of our reserves, but it will, by the 26-27 year, we'll have to continue to withdraw some of that money to keep those reserve levels at the 6%.
Okay, so can you explain what the special reserve fund can be used for, or why it's there?
So it's supposed to be used for, items like salary increases. Jeanette, do you want to?
So when the fund was set up a couple of years ago, it was basically, one of the things was, for example, to mitigate declining enrollment. There was some other things related to the pool. That was one of them. Another thing was to help with our CTE program, such as the aviation program. And so that's one of those things. So basically, the Fund 17, we were only it's government code, we could only keep a certain amount in the general fund balance. So anything that was a little bit over that, you had to commit those funds, and that's when we committed those funds.
So we committed those extra funds by creating this Fund 17 to transfer that money over. So can that money be transferred over back to the general fund as needed?
Correct.
And is there like limits on how it can be used?
What do you mean by limits?
So for example, like somebody may say, there's $7 million there, can we build a field? Can you do that?
You can do that, but we have to think of, our multi-year projection is basically showing deficit spending for the next 3 years, starting with the current fiscal year of 25-26, especially the third out year, because of our, the funding, the way it works and whatnot. So you can, but it's not the best interest of the district to do that.
It's not
because
fiscally responsible.
No, it's not fiscally responsible at all. Because
I understand that. I just wanted to make sure we said that.
We're not going to be able to reach the required minimum of the 6%, and we need to be able to do that. Otherwise, we will be going under the state's control, and we don't want to do that.
Thank you for explaining that. Fund 35, County School Facilities Fund. I mean, its expenses was $3,700. So, and you said that part of it will be utilized towards the pool, but how much? Yeah, was that what I said? There's 100. So, what is that fund, and how can the funds be used?
I believe that was the remaining money left from the bond, correct?
It was basically back in the early 2000s when we were modernizing the schools. We received different, funds to modernize our sites. So that is I don't want to say leftover, that's the remaining funds that were not used. So when we reached out to our auditors to make sure that we are able to use that fund for the pool remodel, we were able to, because also it's construction type. So
do you know how much of that fund is going to be used for the pool? Have we determined that?
Pretty much 3.7.
Like the entire fund?
The entire fund.
So we're going to deplete that?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And the last one, tax override fund. Can you tell me?
So Fund 51 and Fund 53, they're related to our bonds. So those two funds we don't touch as a district, and that's basically LACO or the state, the county treasurer's office that does the
Like the
withdrawing
repayment,
of the funds
Yeah.
for our bonds.
Okay, my last question. The red, the 4.9 deficit, I know that may look a little scary to some of our community. It looks scary to me, to be honest with you. So can you tell me what is the plan for that? How do we, I'm assuming we're going to be transferring some money, but can we give a little insight as to how that will be mitigated?
I'll talk a little bit, and then I'll turn it over to Jeanette. So we'll be working closely with HR, working with Eric's team on just looking at our staffing levels, looking at where, different areas that could be cut that will help us bring us back into the green. So just really analyzing all our expenditures as a whole, looking at what kinds of items are one time versus also looking at what are necessities versus the extra stuff, some things that we might be able to move into some one-time grants for the meantime, and then hopefully in the out years our revenue will jump back up or we'll recover somehow where we could move those programs back into the general fund. But we are talking about different items and how we can strategize on bringing that deficit spending down.
And I'm sorry, go ahead. We are also talking about a fiscal stabilization plan where we can all as a group, as a department sites, doing all of our part, taking a look at our budget and having, a say of what each of us can do to help mitigate our deficit spending.
And is that something that sites are being asked to do now? Or is that something that we currently do, like making sure we're taking a look at our expenses and that, it's not like, oh my gosh, there's red, now we better do this?
No, we are, the sites as well, they know how, we've mentioned it before, but we have not put together a formal plan yet until we've done closing, but that's gonna be our next step, is putting together the fiscal stabilization plan.
Thank you both for this presentation and for your patience in answering those
No
questions. I think it's
problem.
important because I know sometimes I look at it and I have questions, so I can imagine our community looking at this and really having questions as to how these funds are, because it looks like a lot of money in these funds, but it's important to understand that they have limits as to how they can be spent, and they're also for a rainy day, and we have to be thinking about the future, not just spending everything today because it's in there. So thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
I do, thank you. You talked about the general fund revenues, 22 to 23 going up the $4 million because of an 8-point-some% COLA that you mentioned. What's the COLA for 24, 25?
One.
Is it one or is it less than one?
1.07.
1.07. That is important. I understand that we're doing unaudit actuals tonight,
Yeah.
but you do give us this projected budget column for 24, 25. So I just need everybody to understand that we're not going to see an increase in revenue at all. As a matter of fact, it looks like here it's a $6 million decrease in revenue from 23, 24 to 24, 25. So there's the COLA, right, that we're not going to be getting, but then what else is contributing to the decrease in revenue?
So declining enrollment, which we'll adjust at first interim now that we have better actual
Sure.
numbers. We will adjust that and hopefully that it will be, better and less deficit than the, drop in $6 million. But declining enrollment is and a reduction in attendance and ADA is what's causing that.
So all those emails that people are getting about attendance right now, that's why it really matters for kids to be in school every day. It's more important that they're there so they can learn, but it is also how we get paid as a district. I want to point out to the community more than maybe the board here, but this general fund contributions to special education is really helpful. But what it doesn't talk about is, or it's not obvious from this chart, is the amount of money that we receive from the state and federal government as it relates to special education funding. So we want to educate our special education students at the level that they need to be, the assistance that they might need. But we get about $5, maybe $6 million a year.
On the AB 602, about 5.5 million, and then I'm not quite sure roughly how much on the other, but it's not a lot.
I think in total we get about $8 million
Okay.
with the state and the federal side.
Okay, so $8 million was what we're given, right? This federal government, the state government say you have to do these extra things for these students that need these extra supports. No problem. They give us $8 or $9 million, and then we spend $11 million on top of that.
Right.
And I think that that's really important for people to understand that it's $20 million, give or take a little bit, to educate these students. No problem. They just don't give us the resources to be able to, they don't make up for it in the local control funding formula. We don't get paid proportionally more for those special education students than we do for our student population at large. And I just think that that's an important, we've got to figure out, and we, have to discuss as a board what steps that we can take with our legislators or however we're going to do it to try and get some more money.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I'm sorry, can I just, something with regards to that. Can you tell us, I know the answer, but I would like for you to say it for the sake of the community, what percentage of our students in the district are considered special education, receive special education?
I think it's roughly about 18%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe we have 1,220 special ed students. Yeah, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have more questions than the time will allow, so I'll make a separate meeting. But I do have a couple of things that I find remarkable about the numbers. First off, on the revenue side, 85 million in 2023-24 versus 78 million. Is that number going to be adjusted, the 78 million, based on, does that include our current or our projected attendance, enrollment?
That was our projected ADA at
Projected.
adopted budget, so it's were our projections back in May, so we'll be updating them at
Yes.
first interim.
Okay, so when you update that number, won't that have an effect on the 4.9 number?
Correct, it will.
To a big number, right?
If the revenues are higher, then that deficit will be less, but if, yes, that number, that deficit will decrease.
I just remember that this 78 number is not the real, that's not the real revenue number for what we're gonna project for 2024-25. So I think that's important to note that. Secondarily, on the 2023-2024, 16 million contribution to other funds, we've already talked about special ed enough. Does that include our 6% reserve too?
No, that does not include the 6% reserve.
So 85 million was our total revenue. So we took 6% out of that and put that somewhere else too?
That's on the below the line, which is part of our fund balance.
So it's in the fund balance?
It's in the 16.2
It's in the 16,
million.
710?
Yes,
So the
correct.
16,710 is minus the 6%.
Correct. So we have minus 6%. So the total unassigned, unappropriated fund balance is 8.3 million.
Okay, that's an important number for me to know
Yes,
too.
8.3.
And then differently than the way one of my colleagues said it, we have $7.2 million in an unrestricted special reserve fund that we call Fund 17, correct? So we have our 6% put away for a rainy day. We have a policy of 3%. We're putting away 6%, and we have another $7 million that we put away. You know, I haven't had a chance to look at this other than when I got it in front of me, but you know, putting away a bunch and not doing some other things always, you know, balances to me whether it's fiscally responsible or you should be doing something with that money. And I know it's easy to say, okay, well, whatever 4.9 is going to turn into, let's just say, in my guess, I'll just make a call tonight. Say the 4.9 is going to go down to 2 million, okay? And then say that we had 7.2 in a special reserve fund on top of the 6% that we already put away. I would say then we don't even have to dip into our reserves. Then you would just reallocate $2 million from the special reserve fund, right? I mean,
Correct. Yes.
mathematically speaking.
Yes, so that's basically what we are going to be doing in our multi-year projection in order to meet
Right,
the
so
required.
but to me, that masks how much we're really saving. Like, I don't know what the number is, I tried to do the math real quick, but I would say like this number, the ending balance of 7.2 is probably another 9%, 8 or 9% of the 85 million. Right?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, so we have a 3% policy, we put away 6, and then we have an extra 9 just for a rainy day fund or something. We're calling it a special reserve fund, but it's really a fund that we could have been using every year for the past 3 years to do something that we haven't done. Is that an accurate statement?
That's,
I know
Yeah.
we chose not
Yeah.
to, but we have a policy, and we had a policy of 3, then we changed the policy to 6, a board did that, so now we're at 6, right? And in addition to the 6, we have Fund 17.
right, correct.
And Fund 17, as far as I understand it, has no restriction. I mean, that's just money you put away, and it's not restricted.
It's not restricted, it's committed to when the board did a resolution. And I forgot to mention earlier, part of that Fund 17 will also be used for the pool project.
But I think for this board member, I'd like to see the resolution for Fund 17 and understand the mentality of putting that away. And maybe I can make up 100 scenarios, I won't, but I wanna understand that, before I send a budget to somebody that says I'm gonna have a $4.9 million deficit, but I really have another, to me, that is in addition to, I think I'm saying it right, that's in addition to our reserve policy. And it's another fund. It's a different fund that, I don't know, do you know what year that fund was enacted?
It
Approximately?
was maybe 2 years ago because there was a law that came out that you could not keep any more than 10% in your general fund. So you have to commit it to either Fund 17 or, so that's basically what we had to do was.
Or spend it.
Or spend it.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to understand that. And then again, just for the sake of tonight, because I know we can approve this, but this fund name, beginning balance, revenue, expenses, and ending balance, and the numbers are exactly what I was looking for in our budget for each location. And how hard would it be to give me a sheet, if another board member agrees with it, just to say, I'll make up a school. Clifford Elementary School has a 0 beginning balance, it has so much of revenue, so much of expenses, and what's the ending balance of that site? How hard would it be for you to put that together for each site that we have?
We can put together the revenues and expenses. That's fairly manageable because we currently track all of our, probably 90% of our expenses by site, right? However, the fund balance part, we would have to do some sort
There wouldn't be a fund balance
of
yet.
starting point.
Yeah, I left that one blank.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because that's all, simply stated, that's all I was ever looking for was, what is the revenue from each site? What do we spend at each site? And then the other category I would put is what part of that expenditure includes the overhead for the value added things like the corporate office and the other stuff that's
Right.
with it.
Yeah.
So I understand what we're turning in. I don't agree with the numbers because they're unaudited or whatever they're called.
Well, the budget doesn't matter, it's
Yeah.
it's the 23.
The 23, 24,
23, 24,
Oh, yeah, we're in 24, 25.
yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So anyways, I just want you to understand where my head is on when we're turning numbers into people on what that
But
red
the
number looks.
projected is getting turned in now, correct?
No, I
Number
think so.
24, 25 projected gets turned in right now, that's not until December.
Yes, the first interim will be
Yeah.
December, so that was the budget that we passed in
That's not what we're
June.
approving tonight.
We're
No,
approving
I
the
know, I'm just
unaudited
giving a direction.
actuals.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I
Got it.
wasn't understanding.
This
what you were
isn't
saying.
being handed to no one.
This is December, this is later in the year. We're talking about 23, 24, but I'm relating my questions to you about that and about the Fund 17, in addition to the savings that we already have.
Yeah.
And I think that's enough questions for right now, but I think you answered them.
All right,
All right?
thank you.
All right, any other questions? So that will bring us, thank you for that presentation.
Oh, just real quick too, so the Fund 17 board resolution was approved in September 12, 2022, because we had to have it basically by 9/15/2022. And I can pull the resolution and send that over.
I have it right
Oh,
there.
do you have
Is
it?
that the
Okay.
resolution?
This is, that was September 12th, 2022?
Mm-hmm. 22-23-04.
That was last.
Yeah, I would like to see, if you would print that out for me and give that to me, I would like to see it and see the discussion. Yeah, I just wanna see the discussion and what went into that, in addition to the 6%. Okay? Thank you for looking that up. All right, anything else? Okay, that closes out 5.1. That moves us to our discussion action item. 6.1 is this actual item being approved by the board if they so desire. So on that discussion item, is there any other discussion from any, no, I know, I'll get there in a minute. Is there any other discussion from any of the presenters on this issue? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Anything further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, 6.1 passes. That moves us to 6.2, which is a board policy revision called BP 6158, which is an independent study presented for second reading and adoption of proposed revisions. Is there any presentation tonight? We've already had one.
None, unless there's clarifying questions, Ms. Wilson is here to answer them.
Okay, any further clarifying questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the issue? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? 6.2 passes. 6.3 is an approval of the local plan agreement between Glendora Unified School District and the East San Gabriel Valley Special Education Local Plan Area as presented. Is anyone presenting anything to us about this?
No, we just bring this every 3 years for our renewal. We are part of the consortium. We actually have our first meeting this Friday for the new year with the group.
All right, any questions to the superintendent about that?
I just wondered, it's Covina Valley who is the
Administrative unit, yep.
And does that change?
It
Have
has
we ever
changed.
been the administrative
I
unit?
don't
Like
think
what?
I don't think we have, but another unit, local unit, was the unit prior to Covina Valley just a few years ago. So it does change, but I can't recall us being the AU administrative unit in many years that I've
Because
been here.
do they get, we pay them, then they redistribute. Is there any advantage? Do they keep anything administratively?
No, not that I could see from the financial, because they have to hire, they have an executive director, they have an office staff, they have a accounting manager, so Araceli might be able, because she dealt with that when she was at Covina Valley.
You basically break even.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, may I have a motion, please? There's a motion, is there a second? Any further discussion on the issue? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? 6.3 passes. That moves us to 6.4, which is a resolution 24-25-02, which is an alternative inter-district attendance program space availability as presented. Is there anybody presenting anything to this board?
No, just informationally, this is our annual district of choice allotment of proposed spaces for the coming year, and you'll see a number of spaces at each and every grade level. If we have space availability from local districts that we still have room for growth in.
Perfect. Any questions to the superintendent about that?
I don't have any questions, but I think that the current considerations in this item is really important for folks to take a look at as far as the number of district of choice students that we have applying anymore. You know, it was very high at one point in time. Last year it was 19. No, this year it was 19 students applied for district of choice. This is not, half of our students aren't made up of district of choice students. I think there's probably 1,200 district choice students total in the district at this point in time. And so these students are really important to us for our budget as far as our, not that many? 1,000? I'm not quoting you. I just, all I'm saying is that there sometimes is a little bit of misunderstanding that it's thousands of kids every year that are coming in. We hit our cap with most of our neighboring districts probably 8 years ago, a long time ago. But these students are super important to the viability of our district. We're getting paid their local, the amount that we get paid per students we're getting for these kids, and without them, we would be in trouble financially. That would be a lot of money. So I just think it's important for people to take a look at proportionally how many students we have, how many are coming in each year, and what the students that we have are doing as important members of our district.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, that moves us to my favorite time of the night, the consent item calendar. There's 3 areas of the consent item. Tonight it's 8-1 through 11-2. That includes educational services, business services, and personnel services. I did some quick math just because we had a comment on it. There's about $15 million worth of expenditures coming out of tonight's consent calendar. About $55,000 on the service end, about $14.5 million on the business service end, and about $370,000 on the personnel service. So, that being said, may I have a motion to approve 8.1 through 11.2?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the issue? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, then the consent calendar passes. That moves us down to adjournment. It is 8:27 at night. This meeting is adjourned.